Shout out Red Zone Lab Podcast.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's Benjamin St. Jude's, DB for the Washington Commanders. I want to give a big shout out to Red Zone and the Lab Podcast.
Welcome back, Red Zone and the Lab Podcast. And joining us today, an old friend who has moved down south to the Saints to cover the Saints, Max Paris. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back. Of course, this is not about Commanders. This is going to be about Marshon Lattimore. Mm-hmm. But just tell us, like, are you doing the same thing for the Saints as you were doing for the Commanders when you were up here?
Yeah, pretty much. I went from working for the Washington Times to the Times-Picayune down here in New Orleans, covering the beat with a bit more people down here, just like I have teammates and stuff, which is cool. And it's been a fun experience. Yeah, it's been a busy season.
Great. So Picayune, because I was like, I do not know how to pronounce it. I'm going to butcher it. So I'm going to wait for Matt to pronounce that for me. Definitely thank you. And we definitely enjoyed you and appreciate all you done when you were up here covering the Commanders. But yeah, so Matthew is here not to talk about the Saints in our game in a couple of weeks, but Marshon Lattimore. There's, the Commanders traded for Marshon Lattimore. I think it was they traded was a third and a sixth, I think, and we got back a fifth.
It was a third, fourth, and a sixth.
Third, okay, and we got back a fifth. Yep, there we go. So a lot of collide. Adam Peters loved his draft pick, so this absolutely was a move that he was sure about. But it's been a lot of, I'm going to say, crying from the fan base. I'm just going to be blunt with it and say a lot of crying from the fan base. But coming into this year with the Saints and Marshon Lattimore, what were kind of like the expectations of the team and him coming into the year? And I'm only kind of asking that because of, it seemed like they was kind of sellers at the deadline.
Yeah, it was a very interesting build-up to how the Saints eventually got to trading Marshon Lattimore. They shopped him in the offseason, around the combine. His name was floated out there in talks. The relationship, I think, had kind of gone bad a little bit between the two sides. Dennis Allen, who's not here anymore, and Lattimore kind of had to patch things up over the offseason when the rumors were kind of happening. They had a conversation basically going over whether Lattimore wanted to be there or not. They worked through some things. Lattimore bought in. Had played very well, when he was there. But as the Saints season started to go south, it wasn't necessarily a surprise to see them move on, just because he was their one asset that they could get a good return for. And if the Saints season fell off the rails, so I think it made sense to shop him around, and they got ultimately, I thought, was a really good deal.
Was there anything to do with like his past injuries, his age, any of those things came into play in the offseason? Like, I'm just finding, I didn't know that. Like, this is some great information. In the offseason with them wanting to shop, did that have anything to do with it, or is just kind of like?
Yeah, I think there was that definitely did. I think have something to do with it in terms of definitely the injury history. He had so the last two seasons before this one, he had missed a total of 17 games. So he had played like half, just 34 game span. He missed half, basically a full season. Had some weird injuries like lacerated kidney in 2022. Had an ankle injury last year that Dennis Allen said at the time wasn't season ending, and then spoiler, he missed the rest of the season.
Hey, look, that's familiar to you, right?
Yeah. Right. And so it was a little bit bizarre. And then part of it too was like, they drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second round. They had Paulson Adebo, who he had a tough year this year and is out for the year with the broken leg. But before last year, when he was filling in for Lattimore, looked like a star cornerback. So, the Saints had some salary cap problems. That's a theme of their team. And it kind of made sense, like, to at least kind of shop him around. He could be maybe their one guy that they could get a return for. And so, ultimately, I don't think they were happy with the offers or anything like that. In the spring, that was kind of like, Mickey Loomis had told reporters that he's not in the business of giving away good players for nothing. And so ultimately they decided to keep on Lattimore. I think they saw what they wanted from him from a commitment standpoint in the offseason. So they had some repairing to do, and I think it was in an okay place, but as they started to lose more, then they revisited it.
Were there any rumors of any teams that inquired or?
No, not necessarily. I mean, also, like, what was surprising because, what was surprising about the eventual return, and I think one of the reasons why Lattimore wasn't traded earlier was you looked at what cornerbacks were getting from other teams, like the Chiefs-Titans trade with L'Jarius Sneed, like that was, they didn't really get much for him, and then they had to pay, the Titans had to pay for him, or the Titans had to pay like a premium for him just with the contract. So there wasn't really a great like tag, which was it was surprising that Washington gave up what they did for him, just because of like how the cornerback market had been kind of playing out and lead up to that.
Yeah, that was definitely. I was going to ask you about that. When it comes to the medical team and the Saints, and like we've heard a lot, just being outside down through the years. You got the Michael Thomas stuff, you got the Drew Brees stuff, you got all different types of things. What type of place is the medical team in there? Because I'm kind of asking this question based off of when Lattimore got injured the first time, he came back re-aggravated. Was that more of he was clear, or was that more of a Marshawn wanting to get back on the field?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I know some players over the years, specifically Michael Thomas, like you referenced, hasn't been happy with necessarily his treatment, or he kind of said that there was a reason why injuries keep happening. I don't necessarily know how to believe that. It kind of reminds me with, you heard in the same stuff with Trent Williams in Washington.
Yeah.
Like, I think if guys don't heal the way that they want to, that they're gonna blame the doctors. Like, this is just a thing that happens in the NFL. I don't really know how much the Saints medical staff is or isn't to blame. I couldn't tell you to be truthful, but Lattimore hit a very weird besides the injuries of the last 2 years, this season was very weird from an injury standpoint because he missed almost all of training camp with like a hip flexor. He got hurt on the first or the third day, something like that. And then, they were out in California. He didn't return until they got back from California. And then the season started. He hurt his hamstring, missed the following week against Dallas, returned, played, until I think he got hurt in let me look it up. I think it was the Denver game that he aggravated. Or maybe it was here. Sorry, let me just pull up his game log. Okay, yeah. So he got hurt against the Chart. Well, no. So he hurt his hamstring against the Broncos, but seemed fine. Was able to play against the Chargers, but then aggravated that hamstring injury against Los Angeles and has been out ever since. So he didn't have to miss a week after getting hurt against Denver, but in retrospect, maybe he should have. Because it is, frankly, I'm really surprised that he's missed the last 4 games. I thought, maybe I shouldn't have speculated like this, but I thought that it was going to be kind of like a Devontae Adams situation where, all right,
a lot of us did,
and then he's not. So, he's a guy that seems to take his time to recover, for better or worse. That was kind of always the rub on him in New Orleans, is that when is Marshawn Lattimore going to get healthy? And you just never know with those sort of things.
Yeah, and that was gonna, and those was definitely a lot of the Commander fans were like, you know, it's gonna be Devon. He's gonna come. He's gonna practice that week. Gonna play against Philly. We gonna have him. Like we didn't think he was gonna play against Pittsburgh. Just got there. Blah blah blah. But against Philly, got AJ Brown. You got this and that, and then no, and then no again, and then no again. So it's definitely a concern. But what you just said, can you just elaborate a little on that when it comes to, like, is it more? Do you believe it's more so Marshawn wants to be 100% that he can say he's 100%, or is it more of a team, or is it kind of like both of them kind of working together and understanding his recovery time, like even prior to the trade? Like, the Commanders do enough to look into his medical?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm not really sure how to answer. I will, like, you know, the players know their bodies best. So if he doesn't feel comfortable to play, that, you know, you have to respect that, obviously. But what was weird about the ankle injury last year was that they were pretty insistent that it wasn't season ending. They had even, the Saints aren't really a team to, like, really love to use injured reserve anyway, like kind of like put off decisions unless they absolutely have to. But I think, let's see, Marshon Lattimore, injured reserve. Like, he got hurt against Minnesota, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then he didn't go on injured reserve until late November. So I think they waited two weeks or so until placing him on an injured reserve. So, you know, you could have instantly, like, he got hurt. You could tell it was serious. Why not just place him on injured reserve and start the clock sooner? But they didn't, and then he missed the rest of the season. So that is the one that gives me pause, I think, a little bit of, like, what's going on here? How is he responding to these injuries? Because it reminds me of the ankle injury last year where you just don't know what's necessarily happening.
Interesting. Do you think Marshawn wants a new deal? Because we've heard, like even today, Nikki had posted, I guess Adam Peters was on Bram's show, and he talked about Marshawn Lattimore. This is the second time. Maybe he said it on a press conference, and he just said it this time about like he's got 2 more years on this deal. We know I think it's $18 million the next 2 years. I think he got like a $4 million roster bonus that's split in half the next 2 years. Do you think Marshawn wants a new deal, or do you think he's okay playing on this one?
Yeah, you know, again,
with no guarantees, but the $4 million.
Yeah, well, that's the key thing, right?
Yeah,
like, I think it's easy to see, and this is just, you know, be speculating. I don't know this from Marshawn, absolutely sure, but it's easy to look at that contract and say, all right, if we're not going to rework the whole deal and give him a new one, like, what can you guys do in terms of increasing the guarantees? Because this is the thing that, I mean, Washington gave up what they gave up to not obviously cut him after 1 year. Like, that's not going to happen. But if it was an absolute disaster, they could move on pretty easily. So knowing that they have that leverage, like, I don't know, I could see Lattimore or his camp, like, trying to at least get the guarantees up or anything like that. Like, if he had stayed in New Orleans, for instance, and they wanted to keep him, they were probably going to have to redo that contract just because of their salary cap situation, give him a few more guarantees, push the money out, and, like, lower the cap hit that way. So, you know, Washington's in a pretty good financial situation where they don't have to necessarily do that. But at the same time, like, I could see Lattimore wanting more guarantees, at least for his current deal, if not an outright new deal.
After all we said, last question: who won this trade as of right now?
Oh boy, I think New Orleans did. I mean, I kind of thought that at the time. Like, it was a great return, especially for kind of what New Orleans was at as a franchise. And I mean, this is like what this is the goodwill that I think Adam Peters and Jaden Daniels and that, like, all the new faces in Washington have brought up, because I know you mentioned that the fans are kind of angry about this, whatever, but like, if they weren't winning, if this had been the old regime and they had traded for a player who hadn't played in 4 consecutive games, that's a big story that I think has kind of, not that it's not being covered, but like that's whoa, what's going on here? And I just think they've bought themselves a lot of goodwill, rightfully so, by winning games, turning around the franchise. But I don't think a lot of other teams in the NFL would be afforded that luxury.
Yeah, I mean it's starting to show face, right? Yeah. He didn't play against Dallas. He was limited all week in practice. I didn't think he was going to play. Right. And it's kind of showing face after this bye week. If he's not a full participant in practice,
right? Yeah,
it's going to be nasty, especially going up against the Saints. And
well, it's funny, home. Like I'm thinking of like story ideas for next week. And it's like, how do I want to cover this? It's like, well, shoot, I don't have any like games to go. Like, I can't like write here's how Marshon Lattimore is doing with the Commanders,
right?
He's not doing
anything.
I mean, maybe it's just that.
But and then if he does play, he's probably going to be on a snap count, right? So
I don't know.
I don't know. It's something. But definitely thank you for this. I learned a ton. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us again. And you want to, because I have some Saints fans that follow. You want to drop any of your socials or
you can follow me on Twitter at Matthew_Paris. You can follow me there. I'm technically on Blue Sky as well. I think it's Matthew Paris. I jumped on early enough to grab my actual name to where no underscores are needed, but it's Paras. And just throw me a follow, I guess. But you can also read my work on NOLA.com, and I'm around. So
yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it. Nice talking to you, Deuce.
All right, yep. See you. Yep. All right, man. Take care, buddy.
All right.
All right, bro. Yeah. How y'all feeling about that? This was some new information. I know a lot of us was concerned about the why, right? Like, why are they giving away when healthy a top 5 cornerback, right? Like, why would they do that? We know now, right? The relationship wasn't in a good place. Dennis Allen had to repair their relationship. They were in a good place. It was repaired. So, they even was shopping them around, but Mickey Loomis didn't want to get just any old thing. Right? So they kept him. The relationship was good. They was in a good place. It gets injured again. Misses training camp. He's not in California with them. He doesn't come back until they come back. Plays a few games, gets hurt again, out, comes back, re-aggravates. Then they're losing. Dennis Allen gets fired, right? Yeah, I think so. We don't want to look to the future and extend him because we need cap space. So we're not going to extend him and guarantee him money. So let's move him. So we may have given up too much. Third or fourth and a 6th. I mean, we get a 5th back. So, But if he's healthy, we definitely win this trade. But we have to see it. Like, we really have to see what he looks like if he plays against Nola. Congratulations to Jaden Daniels. Number 8 out of 13 weeks. Rookie of the week. Deservingly so. Shout out to the fans for voting him in. Commander fans and all other fans across the entire NFL. Definitely appreciate it. I think the record is 8. So you got 4 more weeks. Can he get another one and to break the record? Maybe a couple for some space. I don't know. We'll see. It's bye week. Shout out to Bobby Wagner. He is the representative for the Commanders for the Walton Payton Award. That's one of the NFL's most prestigious awards. So definitely shout out to him for that and what he does as a man, as a player, in his community. Definitely appreciate that. Man, that was something, man. That was some good information, some good stuff. But yeah, we definitely appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate your time. Remember, like the website, please check it out. rzinTheLab.com. You know, you got Commanders merch on there. I have a love brand on there. Faith, brand on there. Check out the website. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the email list for discounts, different things like that. You get 10% off if you subscribe to the email. So please do that. But remember, we know your time is very valuable for you to spend it with us. We definitely appreciate it. Do it because you love it, not because it loves you. One beat, one sound, one heart.